One of the coolest, most expressive things that we can do on the guitar is bend a note. You can't do that on a piano, so how do you make sure that your bends are good? That's what we're gonna be talking about today, and a big thanks to David Howe, who asked this question on one of my last videos. We're gonna cover everything that David asked about in his comment, so a huge shout out and thank you to David. He is a super student, and if you have any questions about guitar playing that you want help with, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Maybe I'll make a video about what you need help with in the future. So here's what we're gonna go over today. We're gonna talk about how to make sure that you hit the right note every time, so your bends are accurate. We're gonna talk about how to mute around your bends. I'm gonna give you some different ways that you can practice your bends to get better at it. What kind of string gauge should you be using to make bending easier? And if you stay to the end, I'm gonna be giving you a few of my favorite guitar solos to go learn that are gonna give you a ton of great practice doing bends. So make sure you stick around for that. Now, what the heck is bending? Let's start right there. Bending is just a phrasing concept that we use. It's how we play a note to get from one note to the next note. Now here's where most people will mess up. They will just start bending random strings willy-nilly with no forethought of what the heck they're doing. To make your bend sound good, you first need to understand what note you're bending to. So first of all, understanding your scale that you need to be using in that current moment. A lot of people will start out with their minor pentatonic scale. And that's cool, but you have to make sure that you know what notes you're going to be bending to get to the next note in the scale. Because if you just start bending willy-nilly and you're not thinking about it, you're going to start a bend and not know where to end it. So that is key number one, understanding what note you're bending to. A little exercise that you can do to practice that is play whatever scale it is that you're wanting to play and really get the sound of that scale in your ear, and then play through the scale, stop on a random note, and bend up to the next note. So you could play a quick note about bends, just in case you didn't know this. You can push or pull the string. So I mean, you can push the string up to the ceiling, or you can pull it down to the floor. Either way works. Either way, you're gonna produce a note that goes up in pitch, whether you're pushing up or you're pulling down. You're stretching the string in the same way. And you need to be able to do both, because on your lowest strings, you have to pull them down, and on your highest strings, you have to push them up. On your middle strings, it doesn't matter. You can do them either way, okay? So how can you practice to make sure that you're getting the right note every single time? Here's a really simple way that you can do it. Use a tuner, okay? So if you know that you are playing this note right here, which is a G, and we're gonna bend up to a G sharp, or an A flat right there. What you could do is just have your tuner on. I have my tuner right here, and you can't see it because it's on the back of my headstock. But I could just play my G note and bend it up until my G sharp is in tune. And that way you can be training your ear, and you can be training your muscle memory for doing the bend. Now another way to do that is just without the tuner. What you do is you play the G sharp note, and then you play your G, and you try to bend up to that pitch. Because really, when it comes down to it, bending is 98% about listening. It's about your ears. It's only 2% what you do with your hands. And so if you're training your ears, that's gonna be way better for you than just training your hands and thinking, what's the trick that I can use? Really, the better you get at listening and hearing, the better your bends are going to sound. So there's a few different things that you can do to mute around your bends. Take this for example. I'm on my G on the 3rd string, and if I bend it up like that, what I'm doing is I'm taking my pick from my picking hand and actually touching the 4th string that's right above it, so that as I go up, I don't accidentally like grab that string and make sound with it. And then with my other fingers on my hand, I'm touching my higher strings So as I do that, I don't accidentally like hit my second string and get noise from that open string being there. The other thing that you can do is get used to using the other fingers on your hand that you're not bending with and let them relax and lay back. Because right here I've got my first finger on that string and it's also touching the first string too. So my first finger is muting my higher strings. And that just makes it easier. So I'm like double muting to make sure that I'm not getting extra sound. Now to do that, make sure that you do it slow. Remember Bruce Lee said, and the Marines say it all the time, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So if you're just trying to do your bends fast and you're not listening to what you're doing and you're not thinking about it, it's really gonna suck. You want to take the time to make sure it's nice and it's smooth and it sounds great, and then you're gonna be able to execute it quickly without having to think about it. So slow is smooth, smooth is fast. What kind of strings should you be playing? These are 7-gauge strings that I'm playing on my guitar. I am a proponent for lighter strings. They're brighter, they cut through the mix. You can adjust your tone and make it thicker with your amp and all that fun stuff. But I like the ease of not having to fight against my strings or fight against my guitar to be able to do my different bends. And so if you're not ready for 7s because they're pretty slinky, at least 9s or 8-gauge strings are going to make your life easier. Just because they're a lighter gauge, there's less metal, there's less fighting. So make your life easier, make your bends easier, and use lighter gauge strings. Now, another exercise that you can use to practice your bends is just take any scale that you know and bend from one note up to the next note in the scale. So I could start my major scale, and I could just stop on the 7th and bend up to the octave, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then bend up to the octave. And you can do that with any pitch. You could just start on the 1st and bend up to the 2nd. Play the 2nd, bend up to the 3rd. Play the 3rd, bend up to the 4th. And so on and so forth. You can do that with all the different notes in the scale. And that will just give you practice doing it. Now, songs that are really going to help you learn how to bend. What are some of my favorite guitar solos for students to play that really help with bending? Number 1, probably the greatest solo for bending, is While My Guitar Gently Weeps by the Beatles, but the solo is played by Eric Clapton. So this is great because it has some huge bends that you also have to apply vibrato to. That's how he makes the guitar sound like it's crying. Is he does a bend and releases the bend while applying vibrato. It's tricky, but man, it builds your chops for that. Number 2, Hotel California by the Eagles. Lots of Eagles stuff, has lots of great bends and phrasing using bends. So if you want to get really comfortable doing bends, go learn the solos at the end of Hotel California. And number 3, and probably the one that I would start out with, it's one of my favorite solos of all time, is Let It Be by the Beatles. This has great phrasing by George Harrison, lots of cool bending licks going on in it. So if you've not learned the solo to Let It Be, go check out this video next on how to play that solo, and that's going to help you practice the things that we talked about today to apply to your bends. So thanks for watching today. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and I'll see you over in this next video about how to play the solo to Let It Be.